And now let's turn our focus to the war in Ukraine. Details of a new report have come out, a report from Kyiv to its allies. It talks about the drones that have been tormenting Ukraine. Iran's Shahed Kamikaze drones. Russia fires them, and it has used these drones extensively against Ukraine, often to devastating effect. So obviously, stopping these drones should be top priority for Kyiv and for its Western allies. But this new report says the opposite is happening. Instead of stopping the drones from Russia, the West is helping make more. You see, Iran has been bypassing sanctions. It has been getting its hands on Western technology, and it's using it to build these Shaheds. So despite the best efforts, the West has become Iran's unwilling accomplice. Here's a report.
Every day, Russian terrorists hit our towns and villages with rockets and Shaheds.
That was from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's war update last night. He specifically mentioned the Shaheds, Iranian kamikaze drones. Last September was the first time their use was reported in the Ukraine war. Since then, they've become ubiquitous. There are two types of Shaheds commonly seen in Ukrainian skies: the 131 and the 136. They're both triangular and have bulbous noses. They're also said to be loud and not very agile. They aren't exactly the cutting edge of design. But none of that really matters. These drones excel at their intended purpose, flying into the enemy and blowing up on impact. Russia has been using these drones to bombard Ukraine for months. Every other day you hear about Russian drone attacks on vital infrastructure, which poses some serious questions. How many drones did Iran give Russia? How is Iran making so many drones? Why aren't sanctions working to stop Russia's drone supply? Well, it seems Ukraine finally has the answers to some of these questions. Last month, Kyiv sent a 47-page document to the G7 governments. The G7, or Group of Seven, is made up of the US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Canada, plus the EU. Basically, all of Ukraine's major allies. It turns out, these allies are largely responsible for the proliferation of the Shaheds. They've been making parts that Iran uses in its drones. The report says 52 Western electrical components were found in the Shahed 131. 57 were in the Shahed 136. The components were manufactured in Poland, the Netherlands, Ireland, and even the ever-neutral Switzerland. Now you may wonder, how did the Western governments let this happen? How could they help Russia? Well, it's not that simple. Unlike in the past, with oil, diamonds, fertilizers, and whatnot, this time, they weren't helping Russia directly. It's just very difficult to track the components Iran used. In fact, even Ukraine didn't really blame them. The paper lists components like fuel pumps, voltage regulators, transistors, integrated circuits, and so on. These are all relatively common electrical components, manufactured in millions. So it wasn't difficult for Iran to find some, even though the Western firms didn't trade with it directly. The Ukrainian report says Iran imported some of these materials from countries like Turkey, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, India, and Vietnam. It's quite possible. In an interconnected world like the one we live in today, how do you expect to control fuel pump sales? Ukraine understands that in this case, sanctions are pointless. Instead, Kyiv has bolder plans.
We clearly see which areas of pressure on Russia should be strengthened to prevent terrorist capabilities from growing. Sanctions are not enough. There will be more. There will be more of our own Ukrainian actions against the terrorist state.
When Ukraine gave the report to the G7 last month, it had a suggestion. If the West gave it weapons, it would conduct missile strikes on drone production plants in Iran, Syria, and deep within Russia. Yes, Kyiv wants to shell not just Russia, but Iran and Syria too. Ukraine says Iran has been outsourcing the drone production. It now makes some Shaheds in Syria. And it has also helped Russia set up a plant, apparently in Russia's central region of Tatarstan. That's about 1,500 kilometers deep within Russian territory. Ukraine wants to bomb all these places and ask the West for more missiles to take these plants down. It's an ambitious but unrealistic plan. The West may not be able to stop electrical components to Iran, but it's still unlikely to let Ukraine start World War III.